Hello everybody, Jayborino here. This is the finale of E.D.A.S.T, E.D.A.S.T. Inverse settings. A defector, an unavoidable battle, a secret revealed, a turn of fate. E.D.A.S.T is being torn from within, and it may mean a new advantage for the Ped militia. So we learned a lot of stuff in the last map, and if you watched it, then you heard me talk all about it at the end of it, so let's just go ahead and watch the epilogue here of this campaign. Custom music is already off as usual. Let's get going.
Admiral, the entire team is outraged and appalled. Why would you hide something like this from us? And that's pretty much moot compared to what I'll ask next. Why the hell are we using Zerg? We know too little about them to safely assess their capabilities and intentions. It is a major risk.
That information, Lieutenant, was on a need-to-know basis. Remember your place in this organization. We do not always have the luxury for debate, and the decisions made by me are in the best interests of the Tark militia and General Irusi.
Our goal, Lieutenant, is to end this civil war. I'm afraid this debate will have to wait for another time. We have a major problem. General Schuyler has secured his main base with additional air forces, and has already set up a substantial defense. He could not have known that we were planning an offensive on his main base. The element of surprise was going to be a key factor in our mission. But now it isn't. This can mean only one thing. We have a leak.
Sorry guys, hate to hit and run, but I saw what those things did back on Genid. Last thing I want to see is this planet being overrun by some weird creatures. That drone of yours is going to be the end of us all, General. That's why I decided to give Schuyler a little advance warning of your attack. Hey Shadox, do yourself a favor and get rid of this company. I'm out of here.
Oh shit.
Damn it, get a squad out to destroy that traitor.
Hey, wait a minute. You can't fire on a member of E.D.A.S.T.
Lieutenant, I did not ask you for advice. Initiate our advance immediately. Schuyler already has a significant advantage.
Admiral, you can't really be serious about firing on Quick. He's one of us.
I recall hearing the General saying he did not require your advice, and yet here you are, still speaking when uncalled for. Perhaps some time in the brig will teach you why we have a command structure, and why we do not question the orders of our superior officers. Colonel.
Yes, sir?
Would you please escort Mr. Norman to the brig?
Right away, sir.
Our forces are arriving at Schuyler's main base. Our Wraith Squadron is in pursuit of the traitor. Soon we will be able to launch our offensive in full force.
Damn. Quick flees to General Schuyler's Ped militia with a squadron of Terran Wraiths in hot pursuit. This is turning dark. You know, you can only lean on the goofy voice acting for so long to kind of see the lightheartedness of this campaign. But again, there's kind of a dark sub-story to it, which is really cool. And it's, again, kind of a shame that it was never completed. And I'll say before we get started, this was meant to be a series of campaigns. This is the final map that was ever released of it. But you can go on campaignCreations.org, look up the E.D.A.S.T campaign, and you can see that there was a story synopsis that Desler wrote and put out for people to read if you wanted some closure because the campaign maps were never made. Does this mean you're cutting me from the team? I think Quick is my favorite so far. I like him a lot. This is Lieutenant Jack Miles confirming asylum. Ped base, respond. We read and confirm your request. We'll cover you on your way in, Lieutenant. Alright, so the Tark Wraith's getting taken out as they fly into the Ped base. Jack Miles joining the Peds. Interesting. Granted, the Peds kind of only seem like they want to keep the drone away from the Tarks because they don't want the drones being used. Of course not. So I assume these are the Tarks. Purple is the Tarks. Red are the Peds. That's a pretty big Ped base, though. I don't think these Marines are going to be able to do too much. Because it's a cinematic map, I'll leave the game speed fairly low. Well, rather, not low, but default. I am admittedly quite nervous. We're seeing a buildup of Tark forces slowly. Again, this is a pretty big defense for them to have to breach through, though. Or perhaps it's the start of a siege. I'm not sure. But I'm intrigued to see what kind of cliffhanger we get left with. I will say, though, I haven't played too many StarCraft 1 campaigns, but of the ones I've played, I think Desler does the best with some non-playable cutscenes within the game. They're really, really neat. I like them a lot. Obviously, the voice acting is hit or miss, but I think the cutscenes are really, really great. Oh, dear. Okay, well, there's 7 battlecruisers. I am talking over the background music, which will surely get me a copyright hit, and I don't want to have to fuzz the audio if possible, because if you don't, if I talk over it, then YouTube copyright won't hit it, and, you know, fuzzing the audio, someone always comments, what happened to the audio, even though I'm blatantly saying what would happen to the audio if it gets fuzzed right now and have in previous missions. But either way, we see a huge, huge Tark offensive as they're getting ready to push into this PED base, which honestly isn't that large. There's the Phantom and the Freedom, which makes me a little nervous. Time to put our drone to work. We'll set up the hive once we've secured this area. No! Don't use the drone, you're crazy! I mean, I understand their reasons, but it's still not a good idea. Why would you do this? E.D.A.S.T. The saga has only begun. That's ironic to read now. And that's it. So Quick did not die. I expected Quick to get shot down there in a very, very sad way. Luckily, he's made it, but I don't know. I'm actually going to go over to Campaign Creations right now and read how this was supposed to end, because I'm quite intrigued. This was a fun campaign. I liked it a lot, and one thing about these campaigns that I've been playing, I started out with Legacy of the Confederation, right? Excellent campaign. A+ campaign for StarCraft 1. Had its faults, but a lot of it was limited to the StarCraft 1 engine, right? And I'll say the same thing I said at the end of that, which was, you can see things that are the faults of the StarCraft engine and some goofy choices by the creator, but you have to keep in mind this was 17 years ago. Not to mention, can you think of, every time you think of one bad thing about a campaign that you're playing, or a mission that you're playing, or anything that you're doing for that matter, a movie that you're seeing, an activity that you're partaking in, if you want to nitpick one small thing, if you think of one bad thing but can also think of multiple things that are good, then that means you're having a positive experience. Alternatively, if you try to think of good things and you struggle thinking of good things and all you can think of are bad things, then generally you're having a bad experience. Some people think, oh, well, this was mostly good, but I'm going to nitpick it, therefore I'm not satisfied. That is not the conclusion you should come away with when the majority of what you're seeing is enjoyable. You know, ultimately what it comes down to, this is a game. And if I had a fun time, that's pretty much the standard I hold it to. Everything else can be weird and considered garbage by some people, unplayable by some people, so silly by some people who just have to nitpick the shit out of everything. But if you have fun playing something, I think that's really the bottom line for me. And this was fun. So I had a good time. I had a good time with it. And also, this is just sort of a slight retrospective because this is such a short cutscene map anyway that I'm, talking about. Is just with these StarCraft 1 maps in general. I was afraid going into a lot of these StarCraft 1 maps that most of these would just end up being hard for the sake of hard. You remember there were some maps of Legacy of the Confederation that were just very, very hard. I had trouble with one or two of the early macro missions in Legacy of the Confed, and that kind of set my mood of thinking like, oh god, every single creator is kind of out to frustrate and challenge me to the extent that I'm not necessarily willing to put up with at times. But honestly, every other campaign I've played, E.D.A.S.T, Fall from Grace, the Duran, Ascension of Duran, some of those maps did get frustrating at times because some of the macro maps were enormous. And, I'm glad that those are seemingly few and far between. It seems like the difficulty is scaled to a reasonable extent, which, again, I'm very, very grateful for, so that I can just sort of have fun when I play these. That doesn't mean I don't want to challenge, but I also don't want to challenge on every single map. Doesn't need to be grueling. Challenge is good. Frustratingly grueling is bad. It's, some of the Ascension of Duran maps are that way. Some of the Legacy of the Confed maps, I regret to say, were only because, again, some of the really cool ideas that we saw the Oracle wanted to implement just couldn't be done as effective as I think we all know they could have been based on the StarCraft engine. So there were some micro sections where it was like insta-death because of an explosion, but the animation of it was not really representing where the damage was going. Things like that can get frustrating, but ultimately I think we can appreciate some of the ideas that these map makers like the Oracle, like Desler, were trying to do back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. It's really something that many years later we can look back on and appreciate based on the amount of work they put in to work with this dated technology. So it's really, really great. Anyway, this has been Jayborino. I hope you join me for my next campaign. I'll be moving on to the next Celestial Stories campaign. I honestly don't even know what it is offhand. It might be Celestial Eruption. But I'll see you then. Thanks for joining me. Bye now.